a bit on the barriers and the opportunities that people, process, and technology. So we are in an education session, so I will focus and I will highlight the aspects on the education side of this research. So just a few days ago, the European Commission and the Parliament just launched the new eco-design regulation. So as you can see, it establishes the framework for setting eco-design requirements for sustainable products, amending the previous directive. So basically, the new eco-design will expand the requirements of the previous one and introduces some novelties, and one of those is actually the digital product passport. Digital product passport is a concept, just for you to know, is mentioned 139 times in the document that has 89 pages, which is, it seems, a lot. But also it stresses and highlights the importance of the digital product passport for the forthcoming years, not just for construction, because eco-design is for all products. This, and I copy recital 34, and it was done on purpose because underlined what it is mentioned there, and I'm not going to read it, you can see the presentation afterwards, but behind that, what we see is that the European Commission wants to say that the digital product passport is not about reinventing the wheel. So there are already things such as EPRO or the Information Database of Substances of High Concern, SCIP, that should or must be used as part of the digital product passports. So, continuing in the eco-design, chapter 3 is all about digital product passport, and I just copied article 9. Again, I'm not going to read this, okay, because it's dense, and it would not be enough, because it would still miss article 10, 11, 12, and 13, that talk and detail aspects of the digital product passport. So instead, or in another way, we can look to a figure that actually it is just partially mine, because it is adapted from the European Commission, Oscar Nieto from DG GROW, a person that is quite involved in this legal framework, that produced it in the first time, not for the eco-design, but for the forthcoming construction products regulation, that it will be published, we hope, somewhere in October. And in this, so focusing on from the eco-design to the construction products, we have a manufacturer, already exists, that produces information, we already have that, a declaration of performance, meaning CE mark, we already have that, and we have the real product, of course. The new things are the DPP registry and a database, okay? And here, just below, we have the technical performance. It started happening in the 80s, these concerns on products, but we have a new thing, a new label, that is the environmental performance, so aligned with the eco-design. And then we have the digital product passport, that basically it is a set of data sets with specific values related to the different products. So I think that this clarifies a little bit more what is meaning to say in the eco-design articles, but in how do we see it working, specifically the database? We see that we will need to have catalogs for manufacturers, because they already have their marketplaces today, they already advertise their products, so this is to be kept in a way. There is the idea of setting up an EU catalog, so the blue one. We don't know how it is going to happen. Actually, the eco-design and the CPR don't go too much further on that. We will need to wait for other delegate acts on that. But a thing that we think it is essential is that at some point there needs to be a catalog that has all the products that are meaningful for a specific project, because this will feed the digital building logbook, for example, among other things. And if we want to have this connected and coordinated and standardized, we must link it to a data dictionary. So the motivation for our work was that we have these strategies on green and digital transition, but we have the industry, and we have those dots there that mean the sector practices. We are guys that are, let's say, very, very ahead in the innovation. We have big companies, large corporations, small, and this is a concern because there is a gap. And our intuition for this study is that this is a very, very huge gap. So our motivation was to try to answer to these questions because some manufacturers are saying, DPP, what it is, how this happened, when it will come in force, why do we really need it, for whom are we an exception to this? These are the questions that we find in the sector. So our main research questions were how mature is the construction sector for the DPPs that will come at people, process, and technology, and what are the stakeholder ideas on the barriers and opportunities related to the digital product passport. How we did it in terms of materials and methods, we used mixed methods, we did a survey, we collect qualitative and quantitative data, and then we tried to analyze it in a focus group and to identify and cluster what would be the main barriers and the opportunities related. We had, let's say, a very, very heterogeneous sample because the survey was launched in several moments, and we collect around 30 answers from 6 different countries, more than 10 different profiles from architecture, civil engineering, real estate, etc., and of course, product manufacturers. Those are the statistics in terms of years of practice. So we had people with 5 to 10 years, well, some, but also people that had more than 15 years of practice. Moving to the results, one of the first results from the quantitative data, and these are just examples, could not be exhaustive here, is that when we ask what was their assessment of the overall knowledge of the industry at people's level regarding the DPP and the changes, if they are aware or not of the changes on the EU regulation, these were actually the same results. Most of the people said they were not experts on following this. Some were advanced, but very, very few. Most of them consider that they were basic, or the situation of the industry was basic on this. Moving to the other side, when we ask them how they assess or what is their perception on the tools that might support the digital product passport, people responded that 40% state that they are advanced, and in fact we find that there is a lot of things that can contribute for the digital product passport already. So on the survey and from the focus group, we identified several barriers. Some of them are just specific of one dimension, for example, people dimension. There are others that overlap several dimensions. I'm just going to highlight only some of them. So starting with the people dimension, the main barrier is the data overflow. It will be very complicated for some corporations to understand why all the data is relevant. They will struggle a lot to capture and disclose all the data. So data overflow, I would say, it is the concern at people level that most people, most interviewees mentioned. And related to that, we have at process dimension the SME's failure, because might not be able to keep up, either because they are not understanding, that they don't have support on that, etc. At technological level, security and ownership of the data, and this is actually not new. We already have this aspect in other cases. And then looking to the overlaps between people in process, we have value perception might be a barrier if people are not aware of the importance of it. And bridging between the technology and the process, curation, host, and update of the data. This is a concern because there are still a lot of questions there, and because the eco-design mentions that the service provider should keep the data 25 years after a product is gone, which is, say, it raises at least some concerns. And then at the center, data quality and availability. That basically overlaps all these concerns. Moving to the opportunity side, and starting again with the people dimension, the perception is that this can be a really game changer. So after people understand a bit what the DPP can do, they understand that this can be actually the engine for a large amount of innovations, which is good. But that means that from an education point of view, we need to make the message very clear on what is already there. We are not reinventing the wheel. What are the additional requirements on top of what exists, and for them to start perceiving this hypothesis for large-scale innovation. Again, on the process side, unforeseen uses and processes. We could compare, not take quite a lot of time for this, but a lot of opportunities came when the people passport came. Traveling became a lot more easier, and a lot of things that were not thought in the beginning happened. So they realized that this might happen also, but not think too much on it. That's something to do and try to identify. Also the data accessibility. So from this point of view, data will become more available in these databases, which can lead to a lot of things. Data trust and transparency is the common aspect overlapping all the dimensions, and between technology and processes, the process integration, and some case studies already exist on how we can flow this, for example, from the digital product passport level to the digital building logbook, at building level to the digital twin, and this is something that people also realize. So, findings or conclusions, as in other cases, technology dimension is more mature when compared with others. This happened in many surveys that we did, and this is, I think, obvious thing, but it's also very important to underline always. The maturity of the industry when the survey was launched was low, and I say when the survey was launched because we launched it, I say last year, at the end of last year. So from that moment to now, we see that the awareness of the industry is increasing very, very rapidly. So with proper awareness, and this focusing on the education part, with the proper awareness, stakeholders are quickly able to perceive the benefits and the barriers associated to DPP, and this is very, very important because it actually can allow us to structure these actions to be very, very effective in order to progress with the implementation. And I will say a bit on the future research, because we'll concentrate on identifying the obstacles and the facilitators, namely in terms of the data sets that are needed. So the next step is to start working further with manufacturers and try to identify and perceive their struggles, because for one type of product we might have, let's say, people more willing to cooperate. In others it will be more difficult, and this has to do with the test methods, with a lot of things. So this is, I'll say, future research that we will do in the next years. Thank you.